Hello, Dimitri is here. So, why you don't learn? Well, I'm too educated to allow myself to make mistakes. Sounds crazy? It certainly did to me when I heard this statement years ago from an immigrant from Russia who lived in my building. She seemed unable to learn any English, unable or unwilling. When one's ego gets in the way of learning, can we call that inability? Assuming there is no dementia and no brain damage. From the coaching perspective, dealing with one's ego is a choice. See my video on big egos and weak egos on the channel if you're curious to hear what I had to say about that. Of course, it takes a certain amount of self-awareness to realize that you have this particular block. Interestingly, that lady was self-aware enough to understand what was stopping her from learning. Many people give themselves convenient explanations such as, I don't have a knack for this or a talent for that. Or when they see another person doing something well, they may say, oh, you're talented. Is that a compliment? Perhaps, but not necessarily. Often people give such compliments when they are secretly comparing themselves to others and to resolve their own jealousy by explaining away your accomplishment, blaming it on presumed talent because being born with an extraordinary ability is outside of someone's control. So if they don't have it, they have nothing to worry about. Gone is the nagging feeling they could have accomplished something similar by choosing action that would be within their control, such as time and commitment. An English teacher once told me she could figure out rather quickly which students would stay and which ones would drop out. She didn't say the smartest ones typically stayed or the most diligent ones. She said those of her students who had a certain humility about them. Those are the ones who were more likely to stay in class, learn, and make progress. So, ego raises its head again. If you create a flawless image of yourself to hide behind and get attached to it, then of course you won't have the humility to admit imperfections. You'll feel the need to hide mistakes, or better yet, try to avoid making them in the first place, like that lady who refused to learn English did, because it'll feel too embarrassing. And the price to pay? Well, you'll get stuck and won't be moving forward. Plus, chances are people will still see past that fake facade and notice all the insecurities. So, why am I talking about the learning process here? I'm not a teacher. In fact, I never wanted to be one. I have great respect for teachers, for their patience and skills. Teachers use many methods, tools, and even tricks to pump heads full of knowledge. Fortunately, even the most advanced teaching skills often prove futile. Learners get stuck, frustrated, and give up. I sometimes find myself in the position of helping people trying to learn something but getting stuck. That's the job for a coach. However, my observation is that the most successful people are self-taught. They are not spoon-fed. Once you figure something out yourself, you'll remember it for much longer. I've met some college dropouts, and no, their name was not Bill Gates, or people who chose to skip college entirely and build a business. Did that mean they were nearly illiterate, or their body of knowledge was lopsided? Quite the opposite. They were some of the most articulate and intelligent people I've ever seen, with the broadest perspective and great critical thinking skills. Because of their self directed learning, they pursue their true interests instead of sitting through boring college classes and then cramming the night before the final exam, only to forget everything they learned as soon as they're done with it. And those self taught people weren't afraid to be proven wrong. They would just make appropriate adjustments and move on. Now, what else could be holding somebody back other than the ego? A major item on this list would be lack of interest. Sometimes this lack of interest is hidden and buried so deeply that the person may not even suspect they are not truly interested, because they mistake true interest in learning for something else. A friend once told me he wanted to take piano lessons. So I asked, "What's your motivation? Would you enjoy the process of learning to play the piano, or do you like the image of your future self impressing others, friends, family, or maybe the women you date?" After giving it some thought, he said, "It's the latter." I admit I created a false dilemma for him. Why not enjoy both, right? Both the process and the results. Also, the process of visioning of the future you with more skills and success can be a strong motivating factor. All that said, I'm sharing this example to illustrate a point. It's important to get to the bottom of your desire to learn something, to understand if that's what you really want to do. Because in the case of my friend, other means could be found to achieve the same or similar social effect and satisfaction by finding something he was truly interested in. And chances are he would have been much more successful pursuing the alternatives. At the very least, not doing what he didn't truly enjoy. He could have saved a lot of energy and applied it to something else he did enjoy, which he did. And he built a successful business. And by the way, he already had a few years worth of experience trying to learn to play the guitar, which he ultimately quit. So I think it was fair to ask him the question that I asked. I could share even more examples of someone uncovering their true interest and motivation, or lack thereof. When I was in coaching school, one of my trainers told the story of her client who wanted help with the resume because she couldn't find the right words to put on paper and to use during networking and interviews. After several sessions, that lady, the client, realized the true issue was her lack of interest in her entire career. So, when the help of that coach, she figured out what her career interest was and what she was truly interested in. All of a sudden, she found the right words for her new resume and interviews. She didn't even need any help with that. But you may say, What if you are interested in the profession in general, but it requires going to school for that, to get a degree and get a license? And there, while in school, you have to endure boring and irrelevant information you are forced to memorize to pass tests and to get a license. That puts you in a pickle, of course. Well, if you want to be part of a system, a profession in this case, the powers that be charge you an admission cost. And it's not just in the form of mega tuition and ending up in debt for the rest of your life. You want in, they say, well, you have to give up the power to decide what you should spend hours upon hours studying. You are paying that price with the hours, days, months, and years of your life to be admitted to the feeding trough. Tough luck. There are ways to adjust the perspective to help you endure the experience with boring professors and their irrelevant curriculum, and coaching can help you there. Although eventually it comes down to how motivated you are overall to be part of that profession. Or decide you'd rather drop out of school and start your own business. Okay, that was part of my favorite anti academic rant. Let's move on now. What else can stop you from learning? Simply put, giving up too soon. Many people have unrealistic expectations about what it takes to learn a new skill. Usually, things seem easier than they actually are. The amount of time and energy you have to invest and how much gratification, especially quick gratification, you'll be able to get. You've probably heard this expression, there is a learning curve. Have you ever tried to imagine what it may actually look like? I'm going to show you what that learning curve looks like. Here it is. It's based on what's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. This is a graphic is from Wikipedia, by the way. So if you're interested in learning about it in more detail, look it up on Google. Let's go over the parts of this learning curve or the Dunning-Kruger effect. Let's say you decide to start learning something, to play a musical instrument, a foreign language, dancing, flying an airplane, or maybe using your space age remote for your new fancy big screen TV. When you start out, you know next to nothing. Your knowledge is at zero. After the first lesson or two, you may be able to play a simple melody on your new instrument or think you can participate in a simple conversation in the foreign language you've just started to learn. So you're thinking, that's so easy. I learn in no time. And by the way, that's how they may sell you goods and services based on your initial excitement. So that initial excitement, when you're very confident that everything is easy, is called peak of Mount Stupid, because you don't know anything. That's why it seems so easy. So, and then soon after, the reality sets in. Let's say you travel to a country whose language you just started to learn. You ask someone, a stranger, for directions in that language, and then you have no clue what the answer was. Or maybe you started practicing the next tune on your instrument only to seemingly get worse, not better at it. That's a very sinking feeling. And that's where your confidence drops precipitously. It's called the valley of despair. The process of climbing out of that valley of despair can be quite slow. Note, however, that all that time, as long as you keep practicing and practicing, your actual skill level is growing. It's your perception of your skill and your confidence level are those the ones that take this roller coaster ride. And many people falling into the valley of despair quit as soon as they fall there or soon after. So, wrapping this up, I've mentioned three main reasons that can hold you back from learning: the ego, lack of interest, and the Dunning-Kruger effect that can lead to quitting too soon. What other reasons can you think of? Leave in the comments below what you think. And I'll end this talk with more life examples. There is a language teaching method called Pimsleur. It's based on a lot of drills and repetitions designed to permanently put your new language skill into your long-term memory. It's effective, but only for those who finish the course and follow all the instructions. Many people struggle with it, though. Some say, why should I repeat words and phrases out loud many times and see them again and again in many lessons if I already understand them? I know better how I learn. That's your ego talking. No, you don't. No, in this particular instance. The repetition is scientifically designed in that course at certain time intervals to move the knowledge from short to intermediate to the long-term memory. Or losing interest, you may decide, let's say, that learning method is boring, no matter how effective it may be, or just decide that this or any other method is not worth the effort because you wanted it easy. Finally, after the initial excitement, you realize you are still clueless a month or two into the lessons, don't have a satisfying experience trying to use your fledgling skill, let's say the language skill, and quit. I've already mentioned going to a foreign country, trying to use the language you've just started learning and ending up frustrating. Or throwing a party, promising a world-class performance on your new musical instrument only to crash and burn. Or going to a dance party with advanced dancers after the only two lessons. But if you don't give up, you learn, just as the Dunning-Kruger effect shows. No matter how you feel about your skill and your confidence, your actual skill level grows as long as you keep learning and practicing. But if you decide something is not for you, that's fine too. The sooner you realize that, the sooner you'll be able to pursue what is truly yours. So it's all in your hands. When I started taking dance classes, it took me about a year and a half of daily lessons and practice parties to even start figuring out what my arms and legs were doing, to start expressing myself through dance and connecting to the music instead of worrying about the right technique and making mistakes. Of course, there were frustrating and even embarrassing moments, but I like the environment, the people, and the opportunity to get away from a serious job where I was expected to act mature and all buttoned up. So I kept going to the dance school, and all of a sudden, things started coming together as if by themselves. And perhaps somebody else could accomplish all that in just a month. The timing doesn't matter. What matters is that if you keep doing something, you'll get better no matter what tricks your self-confidence, your mind plays on you. And with that, if you like this video, like, subscribe, and share with your friends, Facebook and YouTube. And thank you for listening. See you next week.